Wuhan, it's such an honor to have you today. I'm so excited to have this chance to speak with you. You have created for yourself a multifaceted musical life that encompasses performing, recording, teaching, and artistic direction at the highest levels. In the tradition of the Mind Over Finger podcast, I'd love to start there. So, would you please tell us about you, about your musical journey, and how all of this has unfolded?
I started piano when I was 9 years old, so it's quite late as a musician. I entered a special music training program in Taipei, Taiwan, and I graduated high school through this special music training program. I entered a college, I actually graduate college in Taipei, and I was offered a full scholarship just as my piano teacher in Hart School of Music, Raymond Hansen, came to my recital in Taiwan. And he told me that you're very talented, but would you like to come and study in United States? And I said, of course. I had no idea what I was talking about. But my teacher sent me a package with a full scholarship. So I entered Hart School of Music. And I asked him, where is Hart School? He said, well, it's in between Boston and New York. And I was such a dumb kid. I said, oh, that sounds great. I heard of both cities. And so I went to Connecticut and started my journey there. I barely speak English. I was trained as a soloist in Taiwan. I play a lot of solo concerts, concertos, recital. I also a double major, so I play viola quite well
Mm.
since I was a kid. I was in the orchestra. I was playing the Chinese jingle. I was playing for the opera company. I was playing everything um, thrown at my way, and I took all the jobs and totally happy. Um, when I came to the United States, I had to start from ground zero because nobody knew me here. I did not speak English. Mr. Hansen, one day in a lesson said, do you play chamber music? And I said, I don't. What is that? I'm a soloist, like all of the Chinese musicians. My teacher said, you can be a really great pianist, but if you don't play chamber music, you will never be a good musician because the
Mm.
requirement of intense listening as well as the requirement of understanding the complete score. And that immediately poked my interest. I said, well, how can I do this? I need to be a great musician. He said, well, there's this young quartet that just entered the school faculty. They have a chamber music competition. But if you don't know any chamber music repertoire, you ought to learn some. So I picked the Schumann quintet. Actually, Mr. Hansen picked the Schumann quintet for me. I entered the competition. I won the competition, and the prize is to get to play with this young quartet that just entered the school faculty, and that just happened to be the Emerson Quartet.
Mm.
I was very, very lucky. My first piano quintet was the greatest quartet in the world, and I just thought, this is amazing. I want more of this. So I did a lot of research. I started to build up my chamber music repertoire. After 10 years, I pretty much know all the trio, quartet, violin sonata, cello sonata, viola sonata, quintet, sextet, you name it. I chewed it all up. And by the time, 3 years later, I actually entered also the Marlborough Music Festival. The year before, I was in Aspen Music Festival. So I was a festival musicians. I make all the friendship there. I learned the craft. I had the performance opportunity, both in Aspen and Marlborough, and then both places rehire me. In Marlborough's case, I went to Music from Marlborough tour. In Aspen's case, after Marlborough, I went back there, not only perform, also teach there for the last 30 many years, 30 some years. And then I started to be hired by many music festivals on Chamber Music Northwest, from Santa Fe Music Festival, from La Jolla Music Chamber Fest, Summer Fest. After hitting all the festival, not only in United States, also in Finland, in Japan, I was hired as the young artistic director together with David. We were the young artistic directors in La Jolla Summerfest for 3 years. After that, we decided to found found our own festival venue. So we founded Music and Menlo in the Silicon Valley, and that just celebrated 20th anniversary.
Mm.
Music and Menlo's work, Chamber Music Society in New York, loved the brochure, loved the concept of the thematic programming. So then we were hired by Lincoln Center Chamber Music Society, and we are there in the last 17 years, and we just had a 5 years renew contract. So we will be the longest serving artistic directors after we finish next sets of contract. And through Chamber Music, we have done a lot of work from education to media to expansion of the satellite series. So it's a very busy life. I'm holding both posts as artistic directors, sharing the position with David. Individually, I am the artistic director for Wolf Trap in Virginia, as mounting their chamber music series, as well as in Four Arts, Society of Four Arts in Palm Beach, which is I do all their programming, and I'm artist advisor for both places. On top of that, Chamber Music Society has 8 concert partners. Yesterday, I was in Saratoga Spring Performing Arts Center, where we mount a summer series. We play 12 concerts this summer, and we just announced a winter series coming up starting this season. And as well as many other plays like Drew University Purchase, Chicago Harris Theater, Grand Rapids, St. Cecilia Center, Shaker Village in Kentucky, and as well as partners in Taiwan and China. So it's a very busy life. It's very busy.
What a wonderful and very rich journey. And your contribution, you and David, everything that you do has been so valuable for the whole community. I know that on your website, it mentions that you are igniting the industry, and I have to agree with that. I think that the work that you're doing is so crucial right now.
Well, we're privileged to have these opportunities. And there are lots of principles that we believe in. I think every project is all based on very simple principle of artistic excellence, of complete devotion to the music and nothing else. And so we're here to serve the music. We're not here to be told that what's best for the community. We're here really purely as a musician. In the end, the artistic excellence, what's happening on that stage always are inspiring for not only musicians as well as all the audience and young musicians that follow us and around us. So that principle is so pure, there's no other agenda. So in the end of the day, it's actually quite easy to make a decision as long as your goal and your motive and your principle and your mission are very focused and very pure.
I love that word pure, and that clarity of mission is so important. You talk about artistic excellence. That is always a topic that my listeners are interested in. Of course, I would love to learn how you approach learning and practicing the repertoire. Hear a little bit more, maybe how that works for you both as a soloist. You're still very active as a soloist, and also in chamber music, how that works for you.
Well, because I started late when I was 9 years old, I'm old. I remember when I first started, I was always in a catch-up mode.
Mm.
I have to really catch up with all my friends that started from age 4 and 5 in the special music training program. So I learned from very, very young age to be super strategic and focused. I did not have a choice in order to survive and sustain my scholarship. So I really learned quite quickly that my practice session has to be really yield results.
Mm.
And I learned very quickly to analyze things myself. I had in the early stage that my teacher, a few really important teacher has set the groundwork of all the technique. The first 2 years, because of catch-up work, I did not play anything musical at all. I play only scale, arpeggio, churning etudes, which sometimes is 5 or 10 etudes a week.
Mm.
Or I did it myself. I just chew it up because I had to set the basic technique. And then all of the Bach, 2 parts, 3 parts inventions, prelude and fugue, those were my diet for the first 2 years. I was not allowed to play my beloved Chopin and all the fun pieces that everybody else enjoy. I did not have that choice. What happened is by the time I get to the real music, I was so hungry for it. I
Mm.
was dying for it. It's like somebody keep the candy away from you. And the taste of the candy was just spectacular. I never forget. And then also what happened is I had, by that time, 2 full years of just building technique. I had a very, very basic setup, pretty solid. So once I could control the instrument, I really enjoyed it. I did took, I took 2 breaks. One is when I was about 14, the other one is when I was about maybe 16 or 17. Complete stop playing concerts and stop playing the musical thing to build extra technique of the octaves, of the chords, of all of the more fancy and more difficult thing I could not work on. And I think when I came to United States, I took another advantage of the lack of concert time. I actually rebuilt a lot of repertoire. I think the first 10 years of my time in the United States are very much focused on repertoire building, which the 3 things of the earlier rate to build technique and the joy of making music, as well as later the 10 years investment of really build up my repertoire so I can manage a very intense concert schedule. That was a few sort of turning point and key element for me right now to sustain my career. I'm still quite disciplined right now. I'm still every year adding a new repertoire that I know I'm interested or curious about, or piece I love. I'm still putting in solo pieces in my pocket because it keeps my chops sharp. With my schedule, and Renee, as you know, with I also have a daughter. So with the demand of the domestic life, that I love my family, I like to spend time with them, as well as in my life, the demand of administrative duty, I have to be quite disciplined and quite strategic in all of my practice.
Yeah.
I get up early in the morning. I actually usually get my practice done. I rarely take appointments before 12 noon. So my best time is spending on music, spending on my own happiness, spending on my own thoughts as a musician, and my own artistic development. And by the time I finish that every day, I'm a happiest person. So I can go to my meetings quite focused and happy. Sometimes the schedule is not possible to do such luxurious schedule. Like today, I just traveled for 5 hours this morning. I had 2 business meetings, which is necessary. So there are days it's impossible. And I actually have to really look at my calendar and block off the time for my own music. And so I know I have very limited time also in my practice. So what I rarely go into my practice room without knowing what I need to accomplish. So it's a very sort of planned and strategic life in order for me to keep up all my work in order to deliver a good concert and deliver all the commitment that I have made to different institutions. So
Thank you for sharing this. I feel like it's so inspiring to hear you use words such as strategic and focused, as well as happiness, and how you plan for this time where you get to nurture the things that make you happy so that you can then show up as a fulfilled human. I absolutely love that. It's so great as well to hear how disciplined you are today. And when you were talking about how you spent some time building your technique and what we could call, I guess, delayed gratification, right? Not having access to the repertoire you really wanted to until your teacher felt you were ready. And then eventually that investment, I love that term that you use of investment of time to build up the repertoire. I love hearing about this progression. And I think that is going to be very inspiring for the listeners to hear.
Yeah, I think one mistake in general, a lot of young musicians, of course, we all love to enjoy playing music. That's the biggest fulfillment in life as a musician or as a music lover. Without skill, you cannot deliver, and skill can only comes from practice. It's like you want to hit the basketball. You want to be a greatest basketball player. You got to hit the hoops. If the ball doesn't go in, it's miserable. You can't score points. So you have to build up that skill. It's an athletic thing also. I found a lot of musicians, um, or the most successful musician, needs to have a constant practice of analytical, sharpen up your own analytical ability. If a passage does not go well, you have to just stop. It's not going to happen if you just practice over and over the wrong way. You just have to stop and figure out why it doesn't sound good and what's wrong with it. And you have to really look at it so carefully, identify where the knot is or how to fix it. And if you can't fix it, don't keep practicing because it's useless. You're just getting yourself into bad habit. So you have to really stop, look at the problem, try to imagine a solution, try any kind of solution you could find, experiment with it, using your mental capacity to break through. And that's really, really important. And another thing that I learned from very young age, because pretty much self-taught or trying to improve myself, is you have to learn your own learning pattern.
Mm.
A lot of time, at least for me, you can keep pushing a wall. Sometimes it's not coming through, which is very natural because your brain needs time to digest information. And I always find I will hit the wall and I'll hit it as hard as I could many, 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 many times. And suddenly I will just kind of stop and sit back a little bit, and I will find myself jump and the wall kind of seep through. And that kind of sensation is incredibly exciting and satisfying. But you have to go all the way. Always try to hit that wall, but hit the wall in many different ways until that wall sort of crumble in front of you. And it's a learning thing. If you read a lot of athletic training book, they talk about that a lot as well. Athletes, they are dealing with the same sort of a breakthrough in your mind. But once you acquire the skill, it will stay with you, and that's really important.
Oh, this is such great advice. Wuhan, we know you have so much experience with chamber music, and it's a very popular thing nowadays. A lot of young musicians aspire to a chamber music career, and we know it's not, the easiest thing. What are some things that you would offer as advice to young musicians, maybe starting with how to rehearse?
Mhm.
What are some advice you have for rehearsals as a chamber musician?
Well, I would say that chamber music will teach you a lot of things. Um, First of all, I would say number one criteria is you should just be a very nice person. Because
Mm,
if you are not, nobody's going to want to play with you. It's as simple as that. So it teaches you to be a very considerate and sensitive person. And I think that's really important. It's an exercise when you go into a rehearsal to be incredibly sensitive. And then that's number one. Second thing is you should always be totally, how do you say it? This non-stubborn. Is that a good word? Is there such thing? You should be totally flexible. If somebody make a suggestion to you, it has to be something that someone is not happy with. And you should know, you should consider you're lucky enough to find something that you could improve. And then you should be able to control your instrument to execute it. The most important thing is you can convince whoever you're rehearsing with that you could do anything anybody asks, as well as to make whatever your interpretation so convincing that is not a problem. So it's an attitude adjustment. You should never be defensive.
mm,
That's really important. Now, the third thing is you should have a great sense of humor. A lot of times, don't take things so seriously. If somebody asks for something, you should learn a way to diffuse the tension or trying to make sure everybody is in the best behavior, as well as try to make sure everybody can be either inspired by you or supported by you. And so you are always the person that contribute the most positive energy and contribute the most positive suggestion. Those are skills that you can apply in your real life also. So I always consider going to a chamber music rehearsal as a big exercise in life lesson. The reward is that you will have the best friendship. You will never be lonely on tour, and you'll have such fun making music together with all your friends, which is a very different life than a single-minded practice in somewhere by yourself. So you should have that discipline and that opportunity to form your skill, as well as you should have the joy of making music with your friends. And to play chamber music with your friends, it really gives you extra musical ideas. And so
mhm.
you're always stuck in your own way as well. It's actually lots of fun. So there's a lot of positive thinking exercise to have a successful chamber music career.
This is great. I love how we can almost think about it in terms of how having all of the skills necessary to express anything we want on our instrument. So this, you know, artistic flexibility and this whole human flexibility that you talk about that is so important and very often forgotten, I feel like.
Yeah, well, you're trained we are musicians, so we want to have very, very strong opinions and very strong idea to present that. But there's so many ways to make music.
Yeah.
So once you are opening yourself to all the possibility, you'll be just a happier person. So what I mean about not so stubborn, it's a good thing.
Wonderful advice. How about logistically? So they will wonder, young musicians, how to go about starting a career as a chamber musician.
Well, I think, okay, I am, because the way I was brought up, Taiwan it's the musical life is limited. Also, when I came to United States, I really did not know that many people. So I also learned to start my own project,
Mm,
build up your own weather. You as a musician, you should never sit around and thinking that if you learned your music, somebody's gonna line up outside of your door to knock on the door, beg you to play. It's not gonna happen. Just tell you that right now. So you, as a musician, if you want to have a fulfilling life, if you want to have a career, if you want to make a living, or make a life. I'm not even thinking about making a living, have a life in music. Just find your passion and start them. Don't wait. If you want to play chamber music, call your friend. What pieces you want to read, learn it, prepare it well so you have a good time with your friend. If you don't have a place to find, you don't have a space to look for, you call everybody you know. You have school, you have classroom, you have whatever, you have friends' house, make them a dinner exchange for the space. I don't know. Be very creative. Just be determined. Make things. So if you want to play chamber music, there's no other way. Find a like-minded person, like-minded friends, and start. Festival is a good place to go to. I was very lucky ever since I arrived in the United States. The first summer, I had to stay and practice and learn English. I did not have a choice. Ever since, every summer, I'm in the festival world. I have opportunity to meet new people, to make music with different people. I have opportunity to go to concerts to hear other people play. And I learn so much every summer. I come home a much better musician and much richer in my life experience. So I will highly recommend, don't sit around in the summertime. Go to summer festival. You will make friends. You will learn about, how the chamber music network works. And once you are in there, once you invest that time, the reward will come back immediately.
Wonderful advice. And I really like what you said about making a life. That's absolute gold advice.
Yeah, I think if you only thinking about making a living, it's a little too boring. If you have a life and if you have a, if you are a fast moving train, that you will create so much. People around you are amazed. They all want to be with you, to be at that creative, project-driven, fun creation process. Then you will be able to make a living. If you just sit at home sulking about whatever, you don't have a life, it's just not going to do any good. So it's like everybody want to get on the fast moving train, the successful train, and nobody want to jump on a sinking boat. As simple as that. So make yourself become the most creative force. I think it's a good goal and a good concept and a good idea. And the worst that can happen is nobody want to be with you, but at least you create something. It's going to be fun. You have something to show. So I think that's really important.
That's wonderful advice. Again, you talk about starting your own project. This is a great segue into something I wanted to discuss with you. You mentioned being a fast-moving train and being a creative force, which I feel like these could be words that describe you. Can you tell us a little bit about how things at Chamber Music Society of Lincoln Center, and you talked about music at Menlo, and I know that you also are involved with Wolf Straps, as you said. I feel that those organizations are so innovative. And there are so many wonderful initiatives. And we're in 2022 and there's all these new technologies. So the future of music making is, sky is the limit. So tell us a little bit about your perspective on this.
Well, if I'm going to talk about all the new initiative, we'll need another hour. So I'm going to skip. I think there's a couple principles. I'm trying to get to the most basic idea. I think as a human being or as a musician, you should be always curious. So I love gadgets since I was a kid. So I learned how to make the recordings. I love internet, so I learned how to do all the search. I don't spend that much time on social media because I need to focus my other energy. I do, I'm very curious about our industry, the music
Mhm.
industry. So I read a lot, I analyze a lot of data. I go to every concert series. The first thing I do is study all of their offerings. Um, I'm very curious and borderline nosy. I like to just learn. I just like to learn. I ask a lot of questions, and so I have a lot of information that I can digest, and I can try to learn from other people's mistake from my own analysis, or I can look at the success uh, story, and I can try to analyze what made them successful, and from those activities, as well as doing a lot of listening. I never sit still when I'm on concert tour. I'm always going out to with the board members, with the audience member, with my musician friends, and learn about all of their perspective. And those information, when I collect them, I then put them into something I think it can be useful for the industry or for the art form or for the young musicians. So the project is created like that. For instance, chamber music hours program, I heard a lot from everybody. We need to invest into the new generation. No question about. I believe in that so strongly. Then the idea is actually learning from the young musician what they need. I did a huge amount of listening before I accepted job for like 6 months. Talk to a lot of young musicians. What do you think you will need in your life? Performance opportunity, financial support, prestigious endorsement, blah, 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 blah. And you put it all together and you design the program that can serve all of the criteria. So that's in the education components. I learned a lot from Isaac Stern's chamber music encounter. So Mr. Stern believed chamber music is the greatest education tool. So, I learned from Marlboro Music Festival to put younger generation and the older generation together is a very beneficial combination in chamber music. So the things that you live through life, anyone that want to have a live music, go out, get new experience. Once you gather all the new experience, it will somehow come out just as a person. When I was given the opportunity, I realized my summer festival experience taught me so much. So when I was designing the new summer festival, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I knew exactly what I don't want to do also from my some other summer festival experience. So, I would say I will highly recommend everybody gain as much experience in the musical life as possible through all the opportunity that you can find. Don't ever hesitate to go out and gain new experience because what you learn, and when I'm saying gain new experience, is not just going and enjoy it, going and really learn it, really study it, really analyze it. Why is this good? What did I gain from it? How much did I improve? Can I improve from this environment? Why? And then bring those data home and you can choose through the data and say, yeah, if I ever have an opportunity, here's what I would like to do. I do that kind of exercise all day long, every single day, pretty much all my life. So it's a fun sort of activities, and it's very beneficial for yourself and as well as beneficial for the society as a whole.
Mm, what inspiring words. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Wuhan, I know you have a very busy schedule. How about a round of rapid fire question before I let you go?
Go for it.
So, you've already covered some of it, but what is a habit that you think has contributed to your success? You've mentioned many.
Strategic living. Choose the things you really want to do and passionate about, and don't waste other energy.
Mm, absolutely wise. What skills do you think young musicians studying today should acquire in addition to learning to play their instruments?
Wow, what skill they should require? Um, I think I think one thing will be very, very useful for them is to learn to communicate. Communication to the audience, which is so needed these days. Polish up your public speaking skill and learn to communicate well to your colleague so you can do a positive rehearsal. Learn to write well. It's also polish up your writing skill is super important. Those will be the things that it will sustain you or help you if you want to branch out or if you want to be successful and have a good musical life.
I love that. How about a favorite tool in the practice room? You said you love gadgets.
Oh, Susie, metronome. Metronome and a recording machine. Your iPhone is your best friend. I have my metronome set up all the time and my recording machine set up all the time.
One question I really love, because you mentioned that you have a really big curiosity and that you love to read books. I'd love to know, is there one book in particular that you could recommend?
Well, I have so many books I can recommend, but one book I think for general public and as well as for young musicians that I love, I still go back. The book is so old, it's all ripped, falling apart, is Harold Schoenberg's The Life of Great Composers. I read a lot of biographies. I love biographies. So The Life of Great Composers is really informative and have lots of stories. Get to know a composer is a good thing. You will know them better. You will play their music better.
Great suggestions. I love that. I asked my listeners to send me some questions, and there was one in particular that I thought was really interesting. Sandrine was wondering, how do you handle so much repertoire? You've already shared a little bit at the beginning in regards to being disciplined, but you are so active, so many performances. How does that look like for you to handle so much repertoire?
That's a great question. I would say you should store up your repertoire as soon as possible. The requirement from conservatory of one recital program for 4 years to graduate, you would not be able to have a life in music. So store it up as soon as possible. I was fortunate to have that push when I was young and I never stopped. So I would say chew up. It's like depositing into a library. You want your library to be full. You want your library to burst with activities. So by the time now, like this 2 months of this 6 weeks, I have 6 different programs. So that's 18 pieces that I have to practice. There's no way I can practice them all. So if it's already in your repertoire, you know where are the difficult passages. So you take care of them first. My practicing is always, I don't spend that much time on the simple passages that I know I can manage. Difficult passage, go first. And prepare early. That's another secret. I'm already chewing up all of my concert pieces in November and October. This is August. So I start quite early. Sometimes I even start some of the more difficult piece. I even start 4 to 6 months earlier. So by the time you get to concert or the week before, you are not complete, have to do all-nighters and like cramming exam kind of situation. We try to avoid that at all costs. So strategic planning on your practice repertoire is the key.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Finally, how about a quick actionable tip that the listeners could implement today in their musical lives?
Oh, wow. How many? Well, the first thing is do a lot of listening. I think you should do great musical listening every single day. David and I, we set up in our house. We can always search out a great performance. We love Horowitz, we love Heifetz, we love Oskar Shumsky, we love Rostropovich, we love Martha Argerich, we love so many great artists of Rubinstein and you can just name the people who you admire. The best musician, listen to their playing every single day. Is like taking vitamins, is really good for you. That's an actionable item every day. If you have the time, go to concerts. Don't sit at home. It's really not healthy. Go to concerts is a great way of learning how to be a musician on stage. And I would say another nice action list is do something nice to your friend. Every day, think of something nice to do for somebody. It's a
Mm.
fun thing to do. Write a thank you note, send somebody a flower, check in with an old friend that you have not seen for a long time. Think of something that you could do to gain a life experience. It's also a good one. Take an extra trip. Don't sit around and don't waste your time for negative thinking. My life is so busy, I really don't spend any time. I hate people that complain. If anybody complain around me, I just close my ear, walk away because I don't have time. I want to live my life the fullest, the happiest. I have only time for positive thinking and positive actions.
Mm. Thank you so much for this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Renee, for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you for this gift of your time. I have been a long time admirer of you as an artist and a musician, but in speaking with you today, I really get this new sense of what a truly wonderful, generous, and beautiful human you are. So I feel like it's a real gift I had to sit with you
You're
today.
You're very kind, Renee, and I admire what you're doing, especially, making these podcasts available for the young musicians. What a wonderful thing you're doing. So congratulations to you.
Thank you, Wuhan.
All right.
Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording.